This video will demonstrate how to apply a shaded area in a DGN file to maybe some shapes that are out there or so forth. Or like what we call it is applying a shaded area with transparency applied to it. Used to, you'd have to use Descartes to do this operation, but now there are tools inside the MicroStation tools that allows you to do it inside MicroStation without using Descartes. This is good for like public displays. Whenever you want to show the public what's going on, it kind of gives them a representation of what's going on with a certain property, or also showing a landowner of what's going on with their property if you're impacting their property, if a new alignment was coming through it. Also, right-of-way division likes to see this because it kind of gives them a representation of what's going on with the project also, especially with the land and also the property owners and how their land's being affected. So it kind of gives them a better representation of what's going on also. For this example here, we're going to shade in these areas for these properties in this area right here, just to kind of show you how the tool works and kind of give you a process on how it works. Now, whenever you're working back at your desk, you may do it a little bit differently depending on what situation that you have, but this should give you a good idea of how to apply a transparent fill to some objects that are out there for your job. First thing that we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to go ahead and copy these property lines and also the new right-of-way line, which is running right through here, and then also the existing right-of-way line. We're going to go ahead and copy those outside of the limits right here. So I'm going to go ahead and minus out just a little bit. Actually, I can go ahead and do a fit view. Like I said, I'm just going to copy this information over here outside over here, because whenever I try to place those transparent fills, if I zoom back into the area, if I try to apply that transparent fill right now using the create region tool, which we will use here later on, it won't fill it correctly because we have other geometry that's inside here. Now I could go into my level display and turn off all those levels that I don't need for the time being, but a lot of times in your DGN file, depending on what file that you have, you may have multiple levels turned off or turned on, and if you go back in and turn off all those levels, you may not know which levels are turned back on or off. You're ready to finish this file up. So to make things a little bit easier on us, we're just going to go ahead and copy that information outside and then move those transparent fills back in. And like I said, you may have a different method of doing this, but this is just the way that I'm going to do it and kind of show you. I know these property lines are on level right-of-way land lines, so I can go through there and select all those, or also I could use in my element selection tool, you have this little down arrow, and I can go through here and select everything that's on that level. So I'll go down through here and I will select the one that says roadway land lines, and it'll go through the file and select everything that's on that level. Also through here, I want to grab the new right-of-way line and then also the existing right-of-way lines that are through here. And it is on roadway existing right-of-way, so I can go ahead and select everything that's on that level. And then now below here, we got the one that says roadway new right-of-way. Now I'll go through my list here. And I don't see it in my list, but that's no big deal. I'll just go through here and I will just select these through here. I need to change my method from new to plus, that way I'm adding it to the selection set that I already have. So I'll select plus, and now I'm just going to go through here and select these right-of-way lines that I need. I have everything that I want selected for this example. I'll go ahead and do a fit view, that way I can see everything. Grabbed a lot of stuff, that's alright. I'm going to go ahead and copy it. I'll select my copy tool, left click once, and I'm going to scroll up just a little bit. I will go ahead and left click again to drop off And now if I'm finished with the tool, I'm going to right click to end the tool, and now I'm finished. We still have all these items selected, so if I go back to my element selection tool, I can click on this little icon or this option right here that says clear, and that will clear out my selection set. So I don't have anything selected right now. Now just for this example, I'm just doing this area up in here, so I'm going to go through here and actually delete out some of this other stuff down below here. So I'll go back to my element selection tool, I'll leave it set to plus, and I'll just go ahead and drag a box just somewhere through there to remove some of the stuff. Click on my delete tool or hit the delete button on your keyboard and delete out those other options or other lines that you don't need. I want to go ahead and select this area again by using the element selection tool. I don't know why. Like I said, I just went ahead and drag a box around it. And I'm going to use my move tool and just kind of move it back down a little bit closer to where my geometry is at. Have these items selected. I'm going to clear that selection set. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and zoom into my area here. And these are the areas that I'm going to go ahead and shade in. I do have some text that's inside here. Text shouldn't matter, so I'm going to go ahead and leave those set. You could go through there and delete out those pieces of text, but I'm not going to worry about it because I don't think it's going to affect it. Now to put in these areas here, these shaded areas, the tool to use is in this toolbar right here, and it's this option right here that says create region. So we'll go ahead and select it. Okay, we got the flood method, which allows us to flood an area. And that's the one that we're going to go ahead and use. You got the union, the intersection, and difference, and that deals with if you had closed shapes out there like a circle or a box and it was closed, you could actually identify those elements and apply it to it. Not very often probably will you have that, but those are options that you can use. We'll go ahead and leave a set to the flood method. Fill type, you have none, opaque, and outline. Since we want a colored fill applied to these areas through here, I'm going to go ahead and leave it set to opaque. And also you have your fill color, whatever color that you want. So you click on that little down arrow, and you have all these options through here of whatever color that you want the fill to be. So I'll just go ahead and use this first one right here. We'll just make it red. Keep original, that will keep the original geometry that's out there, which is fine. We can leave it set to that, and that's probably a good one to keep. And then also this one that says associative region boundary, which if we didn't copy it over and you applied the fill and you modified some of these lines through here, it would actually associate to those lines, so your filled area would adjust accordingly. But since we copy this geometry over and we're bringing them back over to our original drawing where the coordinates are correct, we don't necessarily have to have that option checked on for this example. So we'll go ahead and leave it unchecked. Also down below here you got the ignore interior shapes, which will, if you had any shapes inside there, it'll ignore them. Locate interior shapes, where if you had a shape inside there and you didn't want that area filled, it would do that if you had that one checked on. And then the other one is identify alternating interior shapes, and that just does it just like what the icon says. You also have the one that says locate interior text. So if you had text inside there, it would locate the interior text and kind of mask that out. We're not going to worry about that option. A pretty cool option inside this tool is the dynamic area locate, which is checked on right now. We'll go ahead and uncheck it like it is right now. And whenever you're hovering through here, you'll notice that nothing is getting highlighted now. But if you have this option here checked on or toggled on, and you try to go through here and try to apply a fill, what it will do is automatically see what area that it's going to try to fill in before you apply it. So it kind of gives you an identification of what is being filled. If this looks good and that's what I want filled, all I have to do is left click inside that area that I want filled. And I'll go ahead and left click again to accept it, and we have that area filled. So now what I'm going to go ahead and do is actually do it to a bunch of these through here and apply different colors to them. So I'll do one that's blue. Okay, kind of gives you the idea of how to apply those filled areas to some shapes that you want filled in. So we got these properties filled in. We got what the property is right now, plus what's being impacted inside this area right here for our new right-of-way. I'm finished with this tool, so I can go ahead and close it. And now the next thing that I'm going to do is actually apply that transparency to it. And the tool to do that is this change element attributes. So we'll go ahead and select it. And the only one that I need to have toggled on, you can leave the rest of these untoggled, is this one that says transparency. And then inside here we want to apply the whatever transparency that you want to have applied to it. For this example, just to kind of show you, I'm going to go ahead and use this one that says 60%. So I'll select 60. And if I'm ready to apply it, and you'll notice here, if I kind of hover over some of my areas through here, you'll kind of see how they get highlighted by the outside shell of it. All I need to do is go ahead and left click to apply the transparency to it, and I'm finished. And I can apply it to this blue one here. I'll do the same. I'll left click, and it's applied to it. Now you're probably kind of wondering, why isn't the transparency being shown? Well, that is because we need to toggle on the transparency underneath the view attributes. So I only did to these two right here and left these alone for the time being. So I'll go ahead and actually I can go ahead and leave this tool up. To see the transparency is being applied, we need to go to the settings, pull down, and go to view attributes. Or you could also go down below here and select this little icon in your view tools that says view attributes. And underneath here, underneath your presentation option, all you need to do is toggle on this one that says transparency. And now you'll see that transparency being turned on. Let's go ahead and apply it to these other ones through here. I could go through here and do the exact same thing of what I was doing before, left click on it to apply it and do it, or maybe I want to do all of them in one shot. I could do that. If I go back to my element selection tool, and I'll just use the method of plus, I'm going to go ahead and select all those. So I have 4 items selected. And then now if I go back to my change element attributes, change it to whatever percentage that I want, all I need to do, since they're already selected, all I need to do is left click out on the screen to accept it. So I left click out on the screen, and I have them applied to it. Since they are still selected inside here, I'm going to go ahead and go back into my element selection tool, and I'm going to go ahead and clear out my selection set. So now I have those transparencies out there. So the transparencies are there. Let's go ahead and move them back over to where our geometry is correct with the correct coordinates. So I'll just use my element selection tool. Let's go ahead and select all those. Now let's go ahead and copy them back over. Or you can move them. It's whatever you want to do. I'll just move them. My move tool, I'll go down through my snaps down below here, which is kind of important. And I'm going to go ahead and snap to a certain point that I know will transfer over to my other geometry correctly. I know this is a good point right here, so I'm going to go ahead and snap to it. Make sure I got that yellow X since I have my AccuSnap toggled on. I'll snap to it, left click. I'll do a fit view, that way I can see it. I'll go ahead and zoom back into my job here. I'll go ahead and right click, and then now you'll see that it's hovered over that point. And now if I zoom into that area and I'm going to go ahead and snap to that point right there, I will move it. I'll go ahead and drop it off. I'll go ahead and right click to reset it. Kind of zoom out just a little bit. They are still selected. Going to go ahead and clear out my selection set. And now you'll see, since I have an image back behind here, now we can kind of see that image part of it plus our geometry that's behind it with that transparent fill. So that's how you can use the MicroStation tools that are out there to apply a fill in your drawings with transparencies to them. And like I said, once you have them applied to it, you could always go back in and change the transparency to something else. Let's say this red area right here, I want to change it. Instead of 60%, I want it at 80%. All I need to do is select it, go back to my change element attributes, change it to whatever you want. Let's just say 80. Left click to accept it. Clear out your selection set. And now you'll see the transparency is a little bit less now. Now once you're finished doing this operation of applying a transparency, what you need to do, and this is very important, is to go back into your change element attributes and make sure you change that back to 0. Because if you have that transparency still checked on or even checked off and the transparency is set to 50% or 80% or whatever, the next time you start drawing elements out there, it may have that transparency applied to it, which is not good for production whenever you're drawing your edge of pavement or edge of shoulder or right-of-way lines or whatever. So make sure you go back in there and change that back to 0. It's very important. So we'll go back in there and we'll change that back to 0. We can go ahead and uncheck it for now. And then now we're finished. So remember that step. That is very important. Another little tip that you can do, and like I said, this is very optional if you want to do this or not, is whenever you make shapes that are out here, just like what I just did, it may be a good common practice to go in there and place all those shapes on a certain level, like all the level 1 through 63. You could actually apply it to one of those, since those kind of deal with the old leveling scheme that we had. And that way, if you have transparencies applied in your DGN file and you put them all on one level, you could go back to your level display and turn off all those filled areas that are out there. That way they're not shown. And then if you do want them shown, you can just turn that level back on and they will all show up again. So it's just kind of a tip to remember. Also, another good thing about that is if we have them all apply to one level, and let's just go ahead and do that. I'll go ahead and use my element selection tool. I'm going to go ahead and select all these, and I'm going to go back to my change element attributes, check on the level. I have my filter set to used right now. I'm going to change that to none. Now I'm going to go back in here and I will just put them on level 40 just for this example. I'll left click to accept it. It's finished. Go ahead and clear out my selection set. go to my level display. I can go ahead and change my filter back to used. And you'll see level 40 is turned on. I can turn that level off or turn it back on, just like that. Another good thing about it is if I want to change all these transparencies in one shot, all to a different transparency, I could go back in here and use my element selection tool, select everything that's on that level, and then now if I use my change element attributes, go back to it, I can change all these to whatever transparency that I want in a one-time shot. So just kind of a tip to remember. Go ahead and clear out my selection set. And then last but not least is the printing part of it. The printing part of it, you would need to print it out to a PDF or use the HMR plotting through Descartes to get this transparency to print correctly. But those are demonstrated on different videos that are out there. So if you want to look at that and see how that works, just look at the videos on the CAD Wiki site, and that will show you how to create a colored PDF or using the Descartes HMR plotting for doing that. Thank you for watching.